Welcome to my YouTube channel, by the way. My name is Opayemi Olugemiro, and you're welcome to my YouTube channel. So if you've seen like a couple of my previous videos, we have spoken about branding, communications, core values, my job as a strategist over the years, and a couple of other things. And like I shared in my former video, I said I want to start expanding the tentacles of what I really want to delve into. And today's conversation simmers into that thought. I'm having a conversation with someone who has led a startup to the point of Series A, which is a very monumental phase if you have a little bit of an understanding about running startups. So I'm not going to do the introduction. Let me leave him to do the honors.
My name is Temitope Alabi, founder and CEO of Afriex. Afriex is a cross-border payments platform. We make it easy for immigrants to send money home.
Yeah, that's a good place to anchor. Before I even go back to maybe your story and all, CEO perspective, what is branding?
Branding, the brand is the story that you tell your customers, your employees, and the industry. It is the story part of what you do. As a CEO, you're constantly telling stories, right? Like even before you build a product, you're probably telling your co-founder a story about what this is going to be, and your investors a story, and your prospective customers a story. What branding does is really shape and hone that story, and then begin to add assets to it, so that you can tell that story not just through a presentation deck or a business plan, but you can tell that story through video and song and content on your website, etc. So that's how I think about branding. It's just the story, the same story that you've been telling people from day one, but now much more mature, much more fleshed out, and scalable to the world.
So let me bring you back a bit. So for a lot of people, right? And I think I have tried as much as possible as I can to scatter that notion. People really just feel like branding is design, branding is logo, branding is packaging, branding is being in everybody's faces. How did your thoughts evolve to where it is now, right? Because there's that part where you have shared that it's a story. Me, I will extend it a bit and say it's a story that people believe, right? Because you can have a story, and until the people you're trying to reach believe that story, you have really not connected with them, right? So, but did you have a point where your thoughts evolved from A, which is branding is packaging, like because for example, if you like grew up in Nigeria, if you want to say happy branding, say okay, Yoruba, that means let's add branding to this. It just means let's put logo in it, like yeah, and that's what like a lot of people think like branding was for like a long time. So did you have a phase where that was your thought, or how did it evolve to this point for you?
Yeah, there was a point where I had absolutely no idea what brand was. I actually remember the first time I saw someone on LinkedIn with the title like head of brand, and I was like, this person is just taking money and going home. They're not doing anything. But since that point, I've learned a lot about brand. Being an entrepreneur, like you said, and having a product that people want, you start to move beyond just like, faster, cheaper. You start to move beyond those kind of things and really start to understand how customers experience your product. Like everything you do, the whole brand experience, from first downloading the app or first unboxing the app, customer service, all of these things are your brand. And so I would say as I gained more experience as an entrepreneur, brand started to become much more important as part of my thought process.
So let me put it this way. Did you ever experience one kind of a conflict between maybe your design and branding, and maybe you at a point that helped you to get into this point, right? Or let me twist the question a bit and say, for a lot of people, brand strategists and designers, they're struggling to get major decision makers to see things the other way. What worked for you? So maybe they can use that tips for other decision makers.
That's a great question. I think the main conflict is usually between design people, brand people, and design can mean a lot of things. But let's say between brand people and engineering, right?
Okay.
Right, or even finance people, or the more technical side of business. And so that tends to be the main point of friction. I think what is allowed, what allows companies to mesh the two well is strong leaders, people that understand that, people at the top that understand the importance of great engineering and great design. Obviously, I'm sure Steve Jobs is like the greatest example of this. Somebody that would act excellence from engineering, but also act excellence from brand, and ask the two to influence each other. Find ways for both sides to understand the importance of the other side, create avenues for communication and things of that nature. And that's what builds, I guess, the best businesses in the world.
Hmm. So, still on my question. Or like, how did you get convinced? I think that's the exact
How did
question
I
for
get
me.
convinced?
How did you get convinced?
Talking to the customer, being in the market, understanding, because you have to, if you, any CEO worth his salt is going to spend a lot of time talking to the customer. And you get to understand how the customer perceives you. And once you realize that you can influence that, that's brand, right? And so for me, it was just the customer is the one that taught me that brand is important. And so I take those lessons and try to uh, imbue that on the rest of the company.
Um, a huge part of what you just shared, which is something I've spoken about a lot, and I think I may like still um, add more to it in like subsequent um, episodes of my YouTube channel, is listening, right? There's usually that conflict between, because a lot of people really do not know how to take feedback. So maybe a customer says, um, I need something faster, right? And you just go ahead and do speed without considering the downsides.
Mm.
Or sometimes you're picking responses and taking all feedback rather, as the holy grail, right? While some feedback will put you into trouble, or sometimes what they really need is not speed, but there's a problem that they want to solve that
Right.
speed will help to
Right.
solve, right? How do you separate the chaff from the fruits to ensure that you're having like good business success?
Yeah, that's a great question. One perfect example in our business was transaction speed, right? Like customers always want to know where's my money, especially when they're sending internationally, because that's a little bit more of a complicated transaction than if I'm just transacting with somebody locally. There are a lot more players involved. There's just a lot more moving parts. And so generally in our business, most transactions happen in 2 seconds. And of course, customers get used to that. And whenever it takes even 2 minutes, they're already asking questions. And so that customer, those 10% of customers whose transactions are not complete in 2 seconds, asking questions about, I want my transaction to be faster. Um, this for us was a perfect example of where we're saying, look, there's so many third parties and players in the midst of this transaction. What the customer is really asking for in this case may not be speed, it may just be information, transparency. Right?
Cool.
So when they say, where's my transaction? If you literally answer that question, the customer is generally going to be satisfied. But if you take it too much to heart, because customers going to say, I want it faster, where's my money? That's the whole conversation. If you listen to the faster part, you might try to do something that may run you in the wrong direction and run you off the rails. But if you listen to the part of where's my money, that's the real question that they're asking. And if you answer that question, generally the customer will be happy.
This answer gives me so much joy, because it answers a lot of questions on how I think people should approach questions and feedback from the community. But let me drive this down a bit. Um, you said something earlier that CEOs, founders, getting into the meat and getting to understand, listen to customers, have conversation. Um, what would you say is the ones to feel the pulse of the people that you are building for? Um, yes, I mean, maybe because I know one, you're an immigrant, right? So, but
I use it myself.
so that's a good place to start. But what drives you to want to interact with the people that you build for?
Great question. Um, I just think it's super important. I think if you're going to be building anything in the world, really, all the best businesses that I see in any given industry, uh, it's very obvious when people are listening to their customers. Whether it's fast food, whether it's furniture, whatever it is, people that listen to their customers consistently produce better results. And so for me, uh, just part of wanting to really build the best product possible. Moving money is a very old industry. Um, and so if you just sit behind your desk and Google the answers to all the questions, you're just basically going to produce exactly what's already existing. So the way that you get to something new and innovative is that you keep your ear to the street. Combine your own creativity with what you're hearing from the customers. Uh, as you mentioned earlier, the customers will not always have the next innovation or the next answer, but directly, at least they may not tell it to you directly, but just by listening to them and combining your own imagination, you may be able to come up with something that's brand new and special and unique in the market. So for me, the customers are like the oracle of, they're the ultimate reality in business. And so staying as close to that as possible.
Yeah, yeah, love that. Um, just to follow up to that question, which would be that building has a lot to do with relating with people, right? And that part is like so important. However, we have seen sometimes where people not understanding what branding is, or people having limited understanding of what branding is, also gets to the point of where the brand strategist wants X, right? And the business executive wants Y, right? At the end of the day, usually, because let me now speak for the brand strategist, which you now speak for the CEOs, right? At the end of the day, I don't think the strategist does not want the business to make money. Because again, it's their success that makes him successful, right? It's just that maybe probably at that particular point in time, there's just a difference in approach, right? How do you reconcile more often than not business and branding needs? I think they are the same, but from my own end, however, from the CEO's perspective, how do you reconcile it?
A brand is a competitive advantage.
Hmm. I'll write this in the next proposal I send.
Building a brand is integral to building a business because in business there are very few uh, defensible moats. There's very few things you can do that your competition cannot copy. One of those things is building a brand because your brand is your personality. It's very difficult for anybody to actually copy your personality. Even if they tried, um, they can't be you exactly. And so building a brand and investing in a brand is just a really key strategy for long-term success, especially long after maybe the founders are gone. So Coca-Cola, for example, why Coca-Cola can raise its price by 10, 20%. Nobody's gonna no customer is gonna want those Nikes because of the brand. Same with Apple, and the list goes on and on. And so that's what a brand gives you. A brand gives you uh, retention in a very strong way, to the sense that these people trust this brand. They will stick to this brand uh, despite otherwise logical inputs. They, they will stick with this brand. That's what a brand gets.
I mean, this is going to be like my last question. Looking at how far you have come, right? Um, I have a bit of an understanding of the sector. There's a lot of robody inside. I mean, if you don't understand it, I can't explain what robody means. So, but yeah, um, what are some of the things that you have specifically learned, right, that has maybe touched a bit of how you build or affected how you understand? I am particularly interested in this question because a lot of people think that branding or growth is noisy, right? But you have been able to see how you can manage a bit, not so making so much of the noise, even though I think there will soon be a time for that, but still steadily building and having people who steadily use you, right? What have you learned so far?
That's a great question. I think the biggest learning is really that brand is your personality, um, and infusing that into different parts of your business is critical. It's critical. Um, we live in a very competitive world. You know, easier than ever to build a business, build an internet business, and so connecting, bringing something else to the table besides just zeros and ones, I think is very, very important. Um, for example, would spend, we would have various sort of internal brainstorming sessions where we come together and we realign, we identify this is what our brand is, this is what our personality is, this is who we are as a company, and therefore this, therefore that, therefore we should. Um, we're redesigning, we're writing a blog post, or we're writing a piece of content based on this brand, therefore this. Even in product, we wanted to deploy this product that aligned again with who we are, with our personality, with our brand. And so for us, the main lesson has been constantly calling that up, constantly reintroducing that to the team, constantly discussing it amongst each other, and making sure that energy lives on through everything that we do.
It's been an amazing chat. I hope. I mean, it's looking like maybe in like in the next maybe 14 months we'll have to chat again and see how much growth has gone into what we're doing. But I think one of the places that I think I'm going to anchor and as I end this conversation is the fact that branding itself is remote. In that as much as I always argue that when you play on fastest, most beautiful, and several other things that people can win you at, you may not be able to consistently win on that area over a period of time, right? Because, for example, one of the most popular electronics or like gadget brand, people say they have lost innovation, but they are still winning, right? It's just because sometimes some of the things you think people care about, they really do not care about them. I mean, they just care about the fact that they feel good about using something. And if a lot more people can tap into that feel good factor, I mean, I think more African brands, which is one of the things I focus, or African brands or African-led brands, or brands that serve Africans and do, like understanding how to connect with people beyond just their product so that when people use their product, that connection helps the experience of the product, right? So I'm using this, but I feel good about using it so that even if there are mistakes, I am not shouting or I'm not calling out. I'm more like, oh, you guys have done this again. Oh, what happened?
There shouldn't be any mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, but
the idea that this is not just a widget
yeah,
on the screen. This is something that I connect to. This is a personality. I understand the beliefs. I have more common language to communicate with them because I understand their intention. You understand? I think that's the key here. And it does really drive business profits, as we can see from all of the amazing brands that we talked about today.
It's been an amazing one. Have an amazing day. My name is Akwayemi Olubemere again. Subscribe, like, share.